and Caitlin Brown with their hit, Thank God. All right, so last night was Molly Monday, and today we have her in studio to, of course, recap the episode. Good afternoon. How are you?
Hey, how are y'all?
Good. So let's just dive right in. Yesterday was the theme was like the outdoors, the great outdoors, or something like that. Right. And you were tasked with making a mousse cake, right?
Yes.
Okay, so let's talk about that.
So we got to pick our flavors this time. Thank goodness there was no running involved. So they kind of wanted to do like kind of a celestial nighttime sky. And so I did an Earl Grey cake with a blackberry gelée insert and then a chocolate mousse to go with it. So I chose the Earl Grey because I wanted to kind of like tie in like, because they kind of like, they love a story, they wanted to talk about what you do at nighttime. And I was like, I think I even said, we don't do a lot at nighttime because number one, it's hot and there's mosquitoes. Because Ian can't be outside that long. So I was like, if we are outside, maybe we'll drink some tea at night, wind down with the starry skies. Yeah. And so I kind of played on that. So then I did we also had to have a mirror glaze. So it had to be the mousse cake had to be covered in a mirror glaze. And so I did kind of like a pinkish, gray, kind of purpley, like celestial look over it. So
it was pretty gorgeous.
Oh, thanks. I was proud of that one. It turned out better than I thought it was.
That was one of the comments of the judges. Yeah. It was like just how gorgeous it was. Yeah. But then there were some mixed reviews on it overall as far as the taste with your mousse, correct?
Well, Duff thought the mousse was a little heavy.
Yeah.
Like maybe it was like too much mousse or just like a little too rich. It was a rich chocolate mousse. You either have to really like that or not. So, it might have overpowered some of the other flavors just having it be so rich. So, maybe next time I might not do as dark of a chocolate. Maybe do like a lighter chocolate to go with it. I don't know. I didn't think about it at the time. I like the darker chocolate.
Now, are you used to making mousse cakes? Do you have a lot of them here?
Yeah, technically called like entremets is what the French term's called. I haven't done a lot here in Natchez just because it's harder to sell because they're real temperature sensitive. You have to freeze them. That's how you make them. Put them in the freezer, make a layer, put it in the freezer, keep going. And so it's just kind of not really a good thing. And it also too being at home in the cottage industry. You're really not supposed to sell things like that are so temperature sensitive. It's kind of risky to do that. So I just hadn't done them in a while. I used to do them at the hotel a lot that I worked at, so that was a big thing there. So, but I like doing them, and I love to eat them too. They're really good.
How do they give you enough time? I feel like enough
time. I know.
Yes, because the way they edit it and stuff, it's there's not enough time to make these, and it's but obviously they have to give you enough time, right? That is the thing because you can't just go and make a mousse cake within 30 minutes.
Well, they do. They say they test. They have their culinary people that test the challenges beforehand. So so they know that it can be done. Yeah. Now they're not saying that it can be always successful, but you can get something done, you know what I mean? Or you can get something out. And we do have tools in the kitchen that make it possible. We have a blast chiller. So you'll see on the episode, there's this little square, microwave looking box, and that's a blast freezer. And so you can put it in there and it freezes it really quick. But the downside to that is we have a bunch of people sharing these items. Now, with the mousse cakes, it's not as big of a deal because they pretty much stay cold. But say you put a cake in there, a hot cake from the oven, it heats it up. And so it doesn't freeze as good. And so we also have to share, but there's only 2 of them. So that was kind of hard because, we just, if you don't get in there first, then you have to wait.
But does that because it speeds up the process, does that change the flavor or the style of
No, because it's such a blast, it's such a quick freeze that it doesn't there's no freezer burn, anything like that. It just makes it hard really quick and so you can unmold stuff. So that's the best way to do it because otherwise you'd have to set it in a normal freezer for overnight. It would take all day. So you have to have the blast for this kind of thing.
And so something else I noticed during the edit too, which I've always wondered about, is when they're okay, you've got 5 minutes. Well, we see you guys doing a bunch of other stuff that is there's no way that could be done in 5 minutes. So when they're telling you how much time's left, are you worried? Are you ever at a point in time where you're worried oh, I'm not going to get this done? Or are you usually pretty good at timing it?
Personally, for me, I don't remember from the past episodes and then this last one, if there was ever a time where I was not, well, okay, I lie. I think that one last week with the full tart. Yeah. I didn't have time to do decor. So,
Yeah,
I mean, there was just no,
yeah.
like, as you saw, it was just brown.
Yeah.
But I wasn't really, like, in the middle of doing anything. I just knew I wasn't going to have time. So I just said, you know, scratch it. Just put something on the plate. But other than that, I really felt like I had a decent amount of time. But during the whole process, like, you have these grand ideas of what you're going to do. And then, you know, like, midway through, you're like, there's not enough time.
Yeah.
And so then in your brain, you're just thinking, okay, what can I do in replace of this? So
Yeah.
that's kind of what happens. But
Okay.
I've never really felt like I wasn't going to get something on the plate ever.
Yeah, well, that's good.
Yeah. Thank God.
And at the end of the preheat, we saw Josh struggled. His mousse was a little, what are they, like stretchy?
Yeah, his glaze, he overcooked it.
Yeah,
so it was like rubber.
Yeah. And
But
then,
it was gorgeous. It looked so good,
looked
though.
so good.
I know.
And then your good buddy Christian ended up winning.
Yes.
And so then we get into the second challenge where you guys, I'm going to butcher this name,
Croquembouche.
Croquembouche, which is Croquembouche, which
Croquembouche. I think that's right.
Yeah, which is a French pastry dish,
Uh-huh.
and it was another team challenge. And so Christian winning, he got the choice, and he chose you.
Yep.
Did you expect him to pick you?
Well, I mean, he kind of already mentioned that if they were going to do another team challenge, he said, if we do a team challenge, I want you to be my teammate. And I was like, okay, I don't think we'll do another one, but okay, I'll definitely will. And so that he got lucky that he got to choose. So
Yeah.
I was excited. I was ready to work with him because I thought it'd be really fun. Because we already were friends. I knew him really well at that point, so I knew that we could do a good job together. So.
Yeah. And so then you guys were tasked with making like a garden arch type thing out of croquembouche.
Yeah, it's pot au choux is the pastry.
That's it.
Mm-hmm,
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And you guys had the idea of turning it upside down to make it like an underwater type thing, which was so cool. It was gorgeous, and I feel like you guys nailed that. By the way,
I just wish you could see more of it. I feel like you just didn't get to see very much of it on the episode, so I was bummed about that.
What did we miss? Like, what?
Well, just like us working on it and like
yeah.
talking, like more of it. You know what I mean? I just feel like you saw it, but you just didn't get to see the whole process.
Yeah, and so you both had to make, just like the first team challenge, you had to make your own, like, what was it, the patu?
Pot au choux. Yeah, so we had to make pot au choux with the cream. Yep.
And so what did you end up doing?
So Christian made the pot au choux, and I did the pastry cream on the inside. So we did a ginger vanilla pastry cream,
which the judges love. They
Yeah,
said
they
that
like
was
that
a
a
very
lot.
good like pairing.
Uh-huh.
And then you had to make, okay, this is gonna sound silly. You had to make macarons, right?
Uh-huh.
My mom and I were both like, don't they mean macaroons?
Oh,
and I'm like,
gosh.
that's my thinking. And I said, but I think they're two different things.
Well, the problem too is that a lot of people on the episode, I can't remember who all said it, but like half of the bakers said macaroon and half of us said macaron. Well, macaron is the proper term because it is that's the type of cookie that you're thinking of with the shells and the filling. And then a macaroon is another dessert. So that is the coconut dessert that like you see the round like coconut thing. I don't even know we call it coconut rocher in the French culinary industry or whatever.
Yeah.
But that's what it is, a macaroon. So it has two O's and macaron has one O.
Okay, so when I went to Paris and I had
Oh, you butchered you said macaroon?
I did say macaroon.
Well, they make macaroons in Paris, so I'm surprised you didn't get the wrong thing.
Then I probably did. I don't know. It just like, it was so confusing.
I know, and I think a lot of people felt that way too when they started hearing people say different things.
Yeah.
I saw something on Twitter and somebody had written like, the educational guide. They're like, for some of the bakers who obviously don't know the proper term. And I was like, oh, Twitter's lit up.
Oh.
I do read the Twitter. I like to torture myself,
So then you had to redo yours because the first ones came out. Were they too hard?
Well, like the first ones were really bad.
They didn't rise.
They rose up, but they had like this weird like underbelly that you couldn't really see. It was terrible. And so Christian was like, I wouldn't even waste any more time on those. She's like, just get rid of those things. So I just took them out of the oven. We just tossed them.
So then that goes back to as a viewer, not knowing the time where you're actually at in the time. My mind is like, how do they have enough time to make another one? Like, I feel like that there's no way. And so the entire time I'm like, how is she going to have enough time?
Right. Because see, like at that point, I had already, so like I think if I remember correctly, I had already done the filling for the pot au choux because that has to set up. I had already done the filling for the macarons because that has to set up also. And so I did the shells after that. So, I mean, I kind of was already, like when the shells were in the oven, I was already working on the croquembouche with Christian.
Yeah.
So there was time, and he assured me that it was fine because like I wanted to make sure that I didn't put him in a bad place also. Like I'm like, how do you feel? Like, are you good if I do it one more time? And so that's why I made the decision I was going to do it one more time. But if after that, and obviously it didn't work out, I was done. I was not going to waste any more time on it. I was going to sacrifice myself if I had to, because I'm not going to put Christian in a bad position.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because we had a team challenge.
Right.
You know what I mean? I'm not just going to be like, make him do all of it alone. And also, too, I was really excited about it, and there was a lot of things I wanted to do on it, so I wanted to be a part of it, too. So I just said, we're just going to see how this goes, roll with the punches, and we're just gonna pray.
Yeah.
So.
Now, the decor, did you both work on that? Like, I know, and Christian incorporated some of his sugar.
Yeah, he did some of the sugar
which
work.
Was amazing.
I'm trying. So the top, there was like the fondant work, the gnome and the mushrooms. I did all that. Like a lot of the hand piping I did. I cut all the nori for the stuff, and then I made the little. I don't know if you saw it, but we had jellyfish hanging.
Is that what that was?
Okay. Yeah, so we like made the potash jellyfish.
Yeah.
And so I made like the jellyfish tentacles. So we did like all that kind of stuff together. So it's just, you just didn't get to see that because there was just no time.
Yeah.
And a lot of time was spent on my drama.
Yeah, your drama. Oh, Molly, we're going to get into that because we get to the judging. They absolutely loved the presentation.
Yeah.
I mean, because it was gorgeous. They raved about Christians, and then they get to, they loved your, I always forget, the pata, what is it?
What is
the pastry.
The potash?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, the cream, the pastry cream on the inside.
Yeah, they loved that, but then the macaron.
There
we go, the macaron was hard.
I know.
Did you expect it to be hard? Were you
I knew it was hard.
Oh, okay.
Oh, yeah, girl. But I mean, it was like, what was the choice?
Yeah, you had to get something on there.
I was like, I mean, it's not gonna. I mean, yeah, it's a hard shell, but the filling will be good. The filling will be good. It's fine.
Okay.
And it was pretty. I painted a pretty flower on top.
I know, and I loved how you were like trying to like steer them away from like the hardness of it, and like just look how pretty it is.
I know.
It's so pretty. And like hoping like that'll be enough to just focus on the prettiness.
Visually, people at home, it's so beautiful.
That's all that matters. You just that's what brings customers in.
Exactly.
So then it gets to like the top people. Obviously, we didn't even talk about Clement. I mean, that was just like his challenge. Him and April like nailed it.
They're so beautiful.
It was so good. But then the bottom two came, and I'm just like, okay, what's gonna happen here? Because everyone left is so good. Like I know they're all so good. But they call your name, and then they call Jessica. And I'm literally on Snapchat filming this. My kids are sitting next to me. They're like, Mom, what is wrong? What's wrong? And I said, she cannot go home. She cannot do this to me. And then, like, I texted you, and I was like, you about gave me a heart attack. Like, I was
so many people felt that way. I was like, I'm sorry. I can't make any promises about what the future holds, but I'll try better.
Were you nervous?
I mean, yes and no. I mean, I wasn't terribly nervous. I felt like, but like you said, it's like one of those things. It's like, I don't really know because I wasn't in her judging.
Yeah.
I don't know how bad hers was. I mean, are we equal? Like, I mean, is it cumulative? I don't think it is. Well, I don't know. Because, I mean, that they say it's not cumulative. So it's based on per challenge, which, I mean, I think it should be because it's kind of hard, I don't know. But I just was like, if it's my time, it's my time. I tried, you know what I mean? I did my best. Yeah. This is not the way I really wanted to go out. But, I mean, if you're in the bottom, it's not going to be a good reason, you know? So it's always going to be something bad. Yeah. So, I mean, I was nervous, but I was okay if it was going to be the end. Because, I mean, making it to 5 episodes is a lot. Yeah. I was just hoping to get past the first one. Like, seriously. So I was like, oh, this is amazing. Like, I mean, that's fine. I'm okay.
Yeah. Well, and you've made, like, you were saying, like, your dad, everyone was asking you, like, what happened?
I know.
You made, like, the macarons. I mean, have you even figured that out to this day? Do you even...
I can't tell you exactly what happened in that moment. Yeah. I mean, other than, like, first off, I don't even know. I mean, could it have been a misscaling? Maybe. Because in the moment, you're going so fast, you don't even know. I mean, my recipe for macaron is a 3-day process. And so that was the main thing. I remember whenever I got on this show, I thought, if I have to do a macaron, how am I going to do that? Like, how do they do that? Do they give you extra time? Because like, so the first process is you age your egg whites and your almond flour and your powdered sugar. And so that takes about a day. And so I thought maybe they'll give us aged egg whites and powdered sugar. They just won't tell everybody. Yeah. No, that was not that. There was no aged anything. And so I was like, number one, that's weird. Okay. I told Christian that I did that, and he thought that was weird. And I'm like, well, what kind of recipe do you have, mystery man? Because I have this like old school French recipe. That's the only one I know. Yeah. That's what I've been using, and it works, if you do it normally. So that was number one. And then the other process is that, like, once you bake the shells, you don't eat them right away because they are hard. So they go in the fridge. Like you fill them, you put them together, and then you put them in the fridge for like 2 to 3 days, and that's called tempering them.
Mm-hmm.
And then you can eat them. So I'm like, am I going to do this? And so that's the only recipe I had. So maybe there's a different recipe that I'm not aware of. A blitz mac.
Yeah.
And I don't have that. And so I just had to do what I had. And so that's what I did. So either it was a misscaling or my recipe just does not work for that show competition. I'm going to have to do a little research on that, because if I ever do this again, I'm going to need a different recipe. Something a little bit faster.
Yeah. Well, so then obviously we were like, Molly lives on to fight another week.
Gosh,
you see the preview, and I'm hopeful this time, because
my preview was kind of good.
Your preview was really good, like a lot of like yeses, and so like I'm positive for next week.
Yes, me too. I can't say, but it's better, I think.
Can you talk a little bit about what to expect in next week, like what
so
the challenge is?
Next week's really fun, and it's I think it's probably my favorite episode because it's a retro theme.
Oh,
so like I'm a huge Beatles fan, so I love everything like 60s and retro. So we got to do, I think the first challenge is a 50s kind of soda pop challenge, and then the second one is kind of like the 60s like shag era, like shag carpeting kind of thing. So it's fun.
So, it's not a love theme either.
Well, it is kind of a love. It's kind of like a retro love.
Oh,
you'll see. And then they dress in costume, which I love too. That was fun.
Well, thank you for coming in and talking with
course.
us again. Be sure to check out Molly next Monday at 7 p.m. on the Food Network channel and see what she's cooking up next week.
I'll see y'all then.
Bye.
Bye.